Dr. Uma's podcast is a series of podcasts providing career advice, work-based tips and learning skills, helping you become a better doctor with a healthy work-life balance. These podcasts are in association with MRCPCH speciality courses, who specialise in courses in interview skills, application form writing and communication skills. Check it out on mrcpch specialitycourses.co.uk. Hi, welcome to this episode of Dr. Uma's podcast. Now, what I want to talk about today is learning a practical skill. And this really doesn't matter what sort of practical skill it is. It could be learning how to do echo, learning how to do an endoscopy. It could also be as simple as learning how to do a lumbar puncture or a long line. The main message I want to get across, and I'll say this right at the beginning, just get on and do it. The problem I've seen with trainees generally is they want to turn it into an academic exercise. So for an example, when people say, I want to learn how to echo, and I was like, great, come to the ward, next week and let's do some echoes. Oh, no, but I want to read about the physics, or I want to read about the machine first, and then I'll get back to you. My answer is always the same. Why? Why is learning echo physics or, ultrasound physics going to help you learn how to practically scan a patient? And I did the same thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I did the same thing. Even when I went into my cardiac CT or cardiac MRI training, I was more focused on learning MRI physics first and CT physics and how the machine worked than actually, no, how do I put a patient on the table? How do I set them up? How do I set the machine to do the scan? And when do I press go? And that's the bit. So there's three parts of learning any practical skill. There is the academic side of it. So the different types of machines that exist, the physics, the understanding of the sort of the equipment. Then there's the doing, and then there's the interpretation of what you get. The interpretation of what you get, we can deal with that another time. You can learn that out of a book. That's fine. The machine part and understanding it is not going to help you a great deal when you're learning how to do it. So when you're learning how to do an umbilical line, what you need to know is, okay, I'm going to slice this umbilical cord and I'm going to see vessels. Which one is an artery? Which one is a vein? Which of my catheters am I going to put in? How do I prepare this catheter? How far do I insert it? Again, a lot of, yes, you can read it, but it's going to be abstract information. You're not going to really appreciate what you're reading when you first read it because you've not done the task before. So what you need to do is do it. So my advice to you is find someone who's willing to teach you, mentor you, and set some really realistic goals with them. And also set sort of a regular thing with them. So if it's putting lines in, that may be quite tricky. But if it's more like scanning someone or using a machine, you could, I would hope, plan it accordingly that you've got someone that can do it for you. So try to do that, and then you have regular things. So if you have the same person teaching you and mentoring you through the skill and giving you feedback, you're more likely to succeed. Now, no one likes getting feedback. We all hate it because we associate feedback with either a positive or a negative feeling or outcome. What you need to do is rethink that, and you've got to go with a growth mindset rather than a static mindset, thinking that anything that is said to me is bad. You're not good at it, and I'm never going to be good at it. You don't want to do that. You want a growth mindset. You want to say, okay, I'm listening to it and I can hear what you're saying. You give me specific examples of where I've gone wrong. Okay, next time I'm going to do better because I'm going to do something differently. And when you go with that growth mindset, you're always going to have an improvement. It may be a small improvement, maybe a large improvement, but nonetheless, you will be better than you was before the feedback. And that's because of your mindset. So you've got to go with that as well. And don't assume you're going to learn this skill immediately. So wash your hands, roll your sleeves up, and get on and do it. Once you start doing it a few times, you learn just by actually physically picking up that catheter, physically looking at the vessel, which one you're going for. So once you've done it a few times and you've got the feel for the actual skill, now you can go back and read it out of a book and double check that you're doing everything correctly. Make sure there's anything that you would do differently. Is there anything else? To be fair, again, when I think back of all the practical skills I learned, lumbar puncture, umbilical lines, long lines, reading it out of a textbook, I don't really remember it being helpful, nor do I remember doing it all the time. What I needed was someone teaching me and me being their apprentice. And so I advise the same thing to you. Whatever you're learning, whether you're learning how to do endoscopy, don't worry about all the bits and pieces, because you'll learn it as you're doing the skill, because the person teaching you will tell you the do's and don'ts as you're doing the procedure. All you've got to make sure is that you're doing it in a safe environment with someone who's being safe and showing you the correct way of doing it. Once you've got that, everything else will come with time. And once you feel very confident, you can now look in the books and say, okay, how do I make it better? Let me try to understand. But because you've done it so many times, you can say, I see what the book's saying, because I've done it, I've experienced it, I've got that lived experience. So, I mean, this is, I guess if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, you're not teaching me anything different that I didn't already know. My aim was not to do that. My aim is to highlight one thing. Do not assume you're going to learn a practical skill out of a book. And do not be focused on reading it out of a book like you've learned a lot of knowledge before. This is a practical skill. Do it, having a practical approach and be open to feedback. And I can assure you, before you know it, you're going to be an expert.